Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. It is always awesome to have you here joining us, and a big welcome to those of you who are listening to the show for the first time. In today's episode, I welcome Wil Adamy, a deeply creative soul who's walked the path of purpose, passion, and profound self-reflection. We explore what it really means to do what you love in a world that often pushes survival over soul. Will shares how nature, stillness, and self-honesty have helped him reconnect with what truly matters: health, connection, and meaning. This conversation dives into vulnerability, reflection, and the art of constructing a life that feels aligned, not just productive. We talk about manifestation, anger, empathy, relationships, and how we can reclaim our energy from the noise of mass media. If you're someone who craves depth, creativity, and a more intentional life, this episode will resonate deeply. This one was interesting. I think Will has a very unique and open perspective on the world, and he's very outspoken as well. So yeah, really interested to hear your thoughts on this one. If you could please kindly like, subscribe, and leave a review, it would mean that the show can grow and we can reach more people, more men who are navigating their journey. Appreciate you guys being here. I'm Harrison, and this is the Growth Voyage podcast. Enjoy. All right, cool. Well, we'll get started. Will, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Mate, most welcome. We met during those legendary poker nights.
Yes.
Brought a lot of fantastic memories. As always, I think a good place I like to start these conversations is, who are you and what's brought you up to this point in time today?
Who am I? I'm a creative soul, somebody who's always loved the arts, and I had great examples from my parents. You know, a lot of, I think, people get pressured into, you know, going down a career path that, you know, makes money, but doesn't feed the soul. But my mom, you know, was a social worker for a while, dancer before that, eventually massage therapist, eventually psychotherapist, and just kept going back to school. And I saw my parents kind of just achieve their goals by just aligning with what their purpose was. And my father was a musician, or still is a musician, and is a bass player, was a freelancer most of his life until he got a Broadway show. So just to be inspired by my parents of just going down the path of, you know, what you're passionate about, what, you know, like I said, feeds the soul, is something I'm really grateful for to have as an example, because I think a lot of people might go to college or school and then, you know, they don't even use their degree, and then they pivot and they do something else. And, you know, so it's just like a whole winding circle or maze or several figure eights until you like figure out what you're actually meant to do or want to do. So my grandfather was an artist, but before that he was like working on Wall Street for a while. So I have these examples of just, you know, following your dreams, following your passions. And you know, my dad's pretty much retired, but, you know, he'll still take the odd, you know, band or random music job that, you know, he still loves to do. So I'm just grateful that I had those examples, and I love to say that, you know, if you do what you love, you'll like never really want to retire too. Like, I think, you know, there's these examples of just like, okay, if I earn this much money, then, you know, I can retire, or I can do this or invest in that. And then what? Then, like, so at 65, then you can be happy and do what you love? Or like, what if you do what you love like every little day, and then you know, you're going to have more energy and time and better mood and probably better sleep and a lot of other things that just play into balancing that whole like work life harmony or balance. So I'm just a creative person who's always loved visual arts, and what I'm doing now is I've been living in Bali for almost a year and a half. Came here thinking I'd only be here 6 months, and fell in love with the community and the people and the nature and the quality of life. I'm from New York, so it's like $20 for like a salad. It's like organic tax of just like trying to eat healthy, and it's like double the price. So it's just like here, I feel like it's such a nice change of pace of just you can get like a really healthy meal for like $6 US and just go to the gym and take a beach walk. I've never been to a place where like people like prioritize the sunset. Like people gather at 6 at Echo Beach or any beach and just stare for an hour and talk with a friend and just enjoy nature, which I've always enjoyed nature. And I'm just 45 minutes outside the city, so I had this examples of the best of both worlds. I'd go to New York City probably once or twice a week ever since I can remember, but where I grew up, we had hiking and a beautiful like artistic community of a town, great high school with art programs and stuff. So I kind of always hated the city ever since I can remember. I can't believe I eventually lived there for 9 years, and it just drained the hell out of me.
Yeah, I wonder if there was a big disconnect there, right? Because you were talking about this awesome upbringing that you had, where you had people you could be inspired by, following their creative passion, and I presume they encouraged you to do the same. And even if they didn't, just through their example, they showed you, okay, you can pursue your passion, and you don't necessarily have to subscribe to society's idea of success or what you should be. I do wonder though, as you were alluding to with New York City, it seems to me, I've never been there myself, but it seems to me that there'd be a conflict there naturally between your belief system growing up versus the hustle culture and busyness of New York City. So yeah, what was that like for you? Did you experience that conflict then? What was sort of going on in your mind? Did you perhaps see outside influences and almost fall into a pattern of self-doubt yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the self-doubt kind of stemmed from like thinking this is your break, or this is like where it all is going to come together and you're finally going to do this. But New York is still an amazing place. Like my sister loves it and will defend it forever. She's a musician too, like my dad. She's a bass player as well, and she can respect the hell out of it because of there is that culture of having some of the best theater and museums and Broadway shows and music and concerts and small little jazz clubs. So there's that sense that New York does have a lot to offer, but it also is grueling. And that hustle culture, I felt like I always needed a part-time job that like kind of pushed some of my passions aside, that it never let me get to a point where I was able to put like all my eggs in this one basket of like what I felt like I was meant to do or what I was really passionate about. But New York is great in a lot of ways, where there are a lot of people from they're just transplants from all over who just feel like they have to be in New York to try to make it. I mean, we can maybe like blame like Frank Sinatra for that. Just if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And I think I bought into that for longer than I should have, knowing it wasn't feeding me in certain ways. Like the beaches there are pretty disgusting. There are some nice parks like Prospect Park and Central Park, but that wasn't enough nature, I guess, for me. Or the other creative people that I met, they were struggling as well. Or I dated a fashion designer for a while, and I helped her produce her fashion shows and helped with the content for her shows. But she also always had to have like a part-time job. She was a bartender as well. There's always this thing where like that balancing of like just living to survive and make rent and afford New York, and then there's that balance of like, well, this is what I really want to do, but like, wow, if I had a few angel investors or something to like take it off the ground, maybe I wouldn't having to be like working till 4 a.m. at a bar and balance out everything just to afford doing what I love.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I do wonder if there's almost a beauty in terms of our own personal journey. At first, yeah, maybe going through these jobs that we don't like
Mm-hmm.
and still somehow making your way out of it. Maybe that's a part of the journey.
Yeah.
Do you think everyone sort of has to sort of go through that then? Or do you think actually that life that you've just described of hustle and, you know, just trying to make ends meet, but then also trying to pursue your dream, do you think there's an alternative reality to that from the get-go? Or do you think that we all have to sort of struggle a little bit to get to where we want to be?
I mean, yeah, I do believe struggle and suffering is necessary for the human experience and necessary for change, where um, you know, we can view other people without knowing their full story and think they have it easier, have this all worked out for them, or maybe they're like a trust fund kid and have like a little bit of a cushion or a landing pad for them to not feel the pressure to do these side quests to just make everything work. But I do think, yeah, the human experience and change is goes hand in hand with like struggle. So we're all going to go through it at some point. Some people have more like difficult childhoods. Some people have more difficult like teens, and college and their 20s can be a little more challenging. But I think things are going to just repeat in your life in a certain way until you learn that lesson, and it's going to keep showing up in certain times until like you finally like wake up to be like, okay, this is what life is teaching me, or the universe is teaching me, and now like I know if I want to get to the next level, I have to get past this hurdle or do some internal work, or change your environment. I mean, I've always loved nature and stuff, so to finally like consider Bali and move out here, part of it was just a no-brainer because I knew I would be surrounded by forests and beaches and beautiful foliage and land and mountains. So that's something that feeds into what I do creatively and other things. So I think you kind of have to just understand like what's the best recipe for your own success. Is it waking up at 5 or 6 and going on a run with all these like run clubs that are in Bali? Is it working for a couple hours in the morning and then prioritizing gym so you have a break in the day and you can decompress and just get out of your head if you're staring at a computer screen for the first 4 hours of the day? And is it making sure you have a certain social time? There's like all these meetups on Nomio and other places in Bali. Is it forming community? Do you want to host? Do you want to attend? So you just have to find out what the right recipe for your life is. And I think that's a continuous journey. There's going to be certain chapters in your life where this thing is more important for you and your success. There's going to be certain parts where you're like, yeah, I was really into meditation in college. I kind of think I need to get back into that again. That really like served me in a certain way. So yeah, just finding out the right recipe is super important for any human on their journey. And I do believe everyone has a purpose and a talent that's unique. And sometimes that's going to just take like a decade or many years to figure out.
Yeah, and I think, especially as men, I think we have to come to terms with that a lot of the time. I know for me, I was certainly, so I definitely resonate with that. I was always like, I'm just meant for something more, but what kind of is it? And I remember speaking to a friend, and he was saying, and he was in his 40s, right? So he's sort of been down that journey, and he was saying, I actually think it's better to just, rather than trying to go looking for it, just try different shit out and just wait for it to come naturally to you, this idea or purpose. And I think you only reach that point once you've tried enough shit out. So yeah, I think as you were alluding to, different tools. Who do you like hanging out with? Who do you not like hanging out with? What activities do you like doing? And then through experience, I think you can then start building your dream life. I think coming back to your point before, I think the universe will keep on teaching you the same lessons until you see them as lessons, right? I think it's very easy to fall into that sort of victim mentality and think the whole world's out to get you, right? I do wonder though, coming back to that New York City example, how many times, because it's very difficult to imagine, I think, a world where you've just described now, for example, pursuing your passion and living in a country that you love. I think if your belief system, if that's not even a possibility, then that's not even going to be an option. So I do wonder if, how can people cultivate that awareness that perhaps the life that they're living isn't in alignment with their dream life, that they don't even consider, right? I think a lot of the time we forget about these. We have these dreams when we're younger. We want to be an astronaut, we want to be all these things, whatever it may be, a football player, and then we keep on going, but that gets neglected. And I wonder if a lot of people think they're living a great life, and perhaps with a different perspective they are, but are they living that true life that fills them with a sense of fulfillment and joy? And I wonder how people can know whether they are or not.
I think you just got to be honest with yourself. I think, social media doesn't usually help with that too, because, one thing I do love about social media, at least lately, is there is more of a turn towards honoring being vulnerable and honest with yourself, where a lot of social media before that, recent 5-year change was just like, you only showed this type of lifestyle to Instagram, but no one's explaining the struggles or like some of the doubts that they have, or like the fears, or like the challenges. I think it's super important to, just be honest with yourself, and just be okay to share some vulnerable moments or struggles, or like how you got through something, because that I think is so much more inspiring. If and that's what I love about some of my friends here, or they just like very unapologetically them, or like, one of my friends is, it's only on her like close friends stories, but I love how vulnerable she can be about, struggles with, a guy she's seeing or something where she doesn't feel fulfilled in this, and like I just eat those stories up. I just think that's so cool to just be that open and honest. Obviously, like you scroll on her whole page and it's very aesthetically pleasing, but I love how like stories can be that place to be a little more open and vulnerable, even if it is just to your like close friends. That can be super inspiring. And just like I said, being honest with yourself. I think at least in America there's it's been tough, like economically. I feel like people either have to choose between maybe like buying a house or having a kid. You can't like sometimes do both, where people do get trapped in that way of just like just making ends meet and working their butts off, and then going out on the weekend to decompress, and then they got to do it all over again, where they aren't prioritizing their health, or they're not going to the gym, or they're not eating well. I mean, the food in America to me is like mostly poison. So it's if you're doing that, you don't consider or even like think about that you're like maybe binge eating or eating stuff that doesn't serve you, then it's going to be kind of hard to get out of that until you can like kind of wake up and just like be like, well, am I happy, or am I just doing this to get by? I don't think we're meant to just like get by. I think we're meant to find what really serves us and flourish. And I think I remember making a post on Instagram a while ago being like, if you're not happy or fulfilled, like maybe like the environment is what you need to change around you. And the environment I think is so important, and I've seen that in full force living in Bali and realizing there is another way.
Absolutely. And environment can mean several different things, right? You've mentioned nature quite a few times, and I found as well from personal experience, just when I have gone to these more rural parts of Australia, for example, just the quietness of it and the slowness of it in nature, it forces you to slow down, and that's where you really realise, okay, there's actually magic in all these smaller areas of life. I think we can get very distracted as you've mentioned, we can get very distracted by, these things and these opportunities, which are all cool, but then I think it's very easy to get wrapped up in that whole sort of money mindset, right? And I'm really intrigued as to how people can find that balance between, right, following their passion and their purpose, like you've said, but then also ensuring that they're able to financially support those. My belief system, and I've still got a hell of a lot more life experience to sort of validate this, but from my experience, I really believe if you do follow your passion, then things will work out, right? If you're truly living in alignment with that and you're showing up in love. Is that what you found for yourself?
Oh, for sure. And there's like, I've always heard about human design, and I finally have learned a little bit more about it, and I think it's super cool because it takes a lot of ancient ideologies and like throws them all together to like understand what will serve you best. So I found out that like being near mountains is super important for my chart, or like having cold foods or beverages is super important for my digestive system, and just learning more about that is interesting. And I think I always intuitively knew, like I'm a huge lover of skiing, so like being near mountains makes sense, like that. I love that. And like when you're at the ski lodge, I don't want a hot coffee or a hot chocolate, I want something cold. And it's just like, okay, so I always knew these things, but then to be like put it out there that like these things like actually are serving you in a way for, like I was talking about earlier, about like you finding your own like perfect recipe, like my dad's a very passionate chef besides just being a musician, and I learned love of cooking through him. And he's got notes on all of his recipes. He's made this recipe a certain amount of times, but he's realized this works a little better for it, like instead of like this much salt or this much herbs or spices, he has notes, and it's like he's going to make it this way. And so I think it's all about that, just like trying a lot of things like you were saying, but also taking notes and reflecting on how that made you feel, or like did you get good sleep that night based on like the activities you did throughout the day. Like sleep is so crucial and so important for not just your energy levels, but mood and recovery. If you get injured, that's where you like do the most recovery of your muscles and other things. So it's like finding all those things out. I think we all intuitively know, but if you do like human design or like some type of chart reading like that, you can really like have that validation of like, no, this is actually like perfect for me. So yeah, prioritizing just being reflective, I think is great. Like, I've always been into like notes and journals and lists and stuff in person with like by hand with a pen and paper. If you just do that like 5 minutes before bed, like how did this day serve me? What was the highlight of the day? What even was the low point of the day? And are those low points still serving me, or like what can I tweak about that? And then before you know it, you can really just like understand what a perfect day for you is. Can I try to repeat that 5 days in a row? Wow, how will I feel if I do this for 2 weeks in a row now? And like just get the momentum rolling. There was a while where I was very addicted to my phone. I mean, and now I try to like barely go on it, especially before bed. I don't think like staring at your phone before bed is good for your sleep cycle or anything like that. So I think if you can just be like, I'm going to read before bed, or I'm going to do some journaling before bed, or maybe some breath work or something like that, like finding out those things. I think obviously there's a lot of things we can become addicted to, but finding out and being reflective, there's obviously I think some universal things that we all kind of need to prioritize, but there's some beautiful unique things that work just for you and only you.
Yeah, I like this idea of having things in your toolbox that you can select from, right? Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this before as well, and how sort of authenticity always wins, and just be you. Tying back to your point just now, I think a lot of the time when we feel lost, we look outwards for, okay, maybe I should be living my life that way, or I should be doing this morning routine or this. But rather than, I think, just copying someone else, because that's what's worked for them. It's the same with diet, it's the same with sleep, all of this type of thing. And there will be basic foundations, right, for sleep, like no phone before bed, for example. But I think, right, let's just take a little bit of everyone. So, okay, I like what he said there. I don't like that part of his routine, but I quite like that. Okay, this guy's mentioned this, let's try that. But, okay, maybe instead of 20 minutes, I'll do 5. And just taking a little bit of everyone, then we can create something that's right for us. And I love how you mentioned there, how you can sort of have a lot of momentum just by, right, seeing what works for you. Now do that for an extended period of time, and the results can be crazy. And I think the journaling as well, it's massive, I think, because when you reflect on your day, when we live in autopilot, okay, this bad thing happens, this good thing happens, and you can maybe ruminate on those things, but rather than attaching emotion to that, I think, right, let's actually look at what's happened. Okay, that's interesting. So I did this. Why did I do that? And what are the consequences that had? And then you start thinking, okay, this also happened there. Right, okay. And then once you actually learn that lesson, right, okay, now I know, right, when that situation happens in the future, to trust my intuition, for example. That happened to me, actually, not about a week ago, I'd say, where there was this sort of villa party happening, and my instinct was telling me, okay, right, it's probably not your scene anymore because I don't really drink or anything, but yeah, maybe it'd be a cool opportunity to network or connect, right? So I had it in the back of my mind, and I had a bit of work, and I was going to be up fairly early the next morning. So I had 2 options by the time I finished. It was, okay, go to the villa, have a nice early night, read a book, amazing. Like, that to me sounds fantastic. Or the other option was, okay, just show my face at this place for about 10-15 minutes, see if I like the vibe, and then leave. What ended up happening was I looked at the location, and I had about 4 reasons, I think, 4 very good reasons to go back and have a very relaxed night. And then I had this one reason of, okay, maybe I can connect with people there. And so I had 4 versus 1. So it was really stacked up in the safer option, right? It was, but for some reason there was this little, it's actually on the way back home. Okay, I'll pop in for a bit. And what happened was I ended up going for about 45 minutes, and I was thinking to myself, okay, did I really learn anything? Was it a bit of a waste of time? Yeah, probably was. So then I went back, and I think what I would have done before was reflect and think, oh no, why'd you do that? That's such a silly decision. Now you're going to be tired the next day. And I noticed it the next day. I was tired. I didn't sleep, like you were saying. I was, not quite as sharp. I wasn't getting the most out of the day. I was in a paddle tournament, didn't play as well in that. And I reflected on it. I was like, okay, right, why did I make that decision? And then I realised, okay, hang on a sec. I didn't really consider my values here. So then I reassessed my values, and I was like, okay, personal growth is above, connecting, for example, and being interacting with people. So then I was like, okay, right. So even though I had all these stacked up, I'm still prioritizing that, and that's not in alignment with my values. So then now in the future, when that same situation comes up, I know, all right, hang on, I've learned from this experience in the past. I know that I'm going to end up regretting going to this. And that was just like a small example, right? But even just stuff like that, it's so easy to just go into that sort of victim mentality, blame mode. Oh, look what you've done. But then it's only when we take a step back and actually assess the situation that we can make better decisions going forward. I wonder if that's been a big part of your journey, maybe looking at your, I say, mistakes, setbacks, challenges, whatever you like to call them, and instead of embracing a victim mentality, you've gone, hey, you know what, I've actually learned something really valuable here.
I almost want to say like the flip side of everything you said. I'm a very social person. I'm very extroverted, and doing photo and video, and sometimes being sometimes just an editor for certain projects. I love my villa. I have 3 cats. I'm very happy to call it an early night. I barely watch TV or movies anymore. I'll just listen to a podcast maybe before bed and do some reflection. But I actually find that I really do need to go out, which is interesting because like I don't really drink either. I stopped drinking for 7 years, and I started recently, but it's been not that excessive and just here and there. But I think I sometimes will doubt, like, should I go out? But what always wins is like, no, no, no. Like everyone, you always hear about people saying, "Oh, I need to charge like my social battery." Like, "Oh, I've been drained. I've been doing all this stuff." It's like, no, I need my social battery to be charged by a party or like a villa gathering or a friends thing. And then every time I might doubt, like, should I go out? Oh, I might have an early morning. I might have a paddle tournament. I might have something to do. Most of the time I never regret it. There's some friend I hadn't seen in a while, and I'm reminded that, not even reminded, just like I just run into them, and he asked a great question. I just was at the sober party at Nirvana on Friday, and I ran into a friend I hadn't seen in a little bit, and he said, "How are you doing?" And I gave him a little update. But I'm so not into small talk. So I just am very open. I'm like, I got this great job. I'm doing this now. I'm working with this person, and everything's great. But like, I really, miss working with musicians. I used to do a lot of music videos and fashion stuff in New York, and now like my content has kind of pivoted in the work I do. But, I was just open about that, and he was just like, "Oh, I have a couple of musicians I should connect you with," or whatever. And I'm just like, wow, like I could have avoided all of that. Obviously, you can scroll in your WhatsApp messages and try to connect with people that you haven't seen in a while. And I think that's a super important practice. It's just like, if you're bored and you don't want to do this like doom scrolling on Instagram or consume stuff that's just not serving you, do some doom scrolling on WhatsApp and be like, wow, I haven't talked to that friend in like 2 months or a month. And then it's not about getting anything out of it. It's just about a quick like, "Hey, how you been? Checking, it's been long." And then see where that conversation goes, and then before you know it, like, you guys are grabbing like coffee later this week, or like I've reached out to some friends I met at this really cool event I went to a while ago. It was 3 months ago, but I just have been loving their content and what they're doing, and I just want to get dinner. There's no intent of like selling them like, "Do you guys need video or photo services?" But I know that like doing those type of things, or like, just texting somebody last night to just ask how they're doing, and then it turns into being like, "Oh, I need some help with like photos and videos for this," and like I said, it wasn't my intention to sell or get something out of this, but I've noticed that like connection is super important. Like, my work has now just become like word of mouth. So like going to a party or going to connect with a friend that you haven't talked to in a while is super important. And just it just kind of shows people too, you're thinking about them, you care about them. If it's just a text on WhatsApp, or if you go to a party and you're just being a little vulnerable and honest, that next thing you know, you might have a new client or like something like that, or you make a connection. So I, most of the time, never regret going out or going to a party or going anywhere where it's basically just, the intent isn't to like, let me get more work, but the intent is to be social. And my MO, or my main objective, is just to be like, vulnerable and authentic, as I hate small talk. So it's I'm gonna just be myself, and before you know it, even if you don't get a client, or even if you don't make a connection that way, I really value just deeper and thoughtful conversations. So by the end of the night, that serves me, and in that sense, my social battery is recharged.
Yeah, well, I've actually learned a lot actually from my perspective, and yeah, I think you've got to, you've got to be wanting to be there. I think that's an important point as well, right? Whereas if you're sort of half in, half out, and you're like, okay, I kind of want to sleep, but if you're forcing it, then yeah, there's going to be resistance there. But I think you touched upon a really cool point, and it ties in with this universe stuff we were discussing before. When you start, and again, this is why it kind of ties into manifestation a bit as well, but if you believe that, okay, if your head is in a certain place and you're thinking about where you want to go and it's on your mind, okay, the musician example, for example, okay, I want to work with more musicians, and if you're manifesting that into reality, can be through a manifestation practice, or it could just be because you're thinking about it so much in the back of your mind, you're going to create that into your external reality. And from what I've read so far on the subject, when we try and picture exactly how that manifestation will come into reality, it usually doesn't end up happening because we try and control our outer world. Whereas if we just think, okay, right, I want to work with more musicians, for example, but you don't try and predict how that will happen, then that will sort of manifest into reality. And I know there's a lot of cool meditation exercises that emphasize this point. When you go really deep into your subconscious and your mind, what happens is you basically ask the universe for something and you think about what will happen, but you don't think about how it will happen, because once you try and think how it will happen, then it won't, right?
I remember learning this lesson probably in the beginning, a few months of when I was in Bali, like last year. It's just like you said, just asking the universe, but asking it in a way where it's not like I need this to happen. You don't use the word need. Don't be so attached to the end result. It's just, I think the word, I think you said it too, is want. You say what you want, and the universe usually rewards it. But I think a lot of people aren't even understanding what they want, and that's why manifestation might not come as easy to them. So just being honest with, I want to work with musicians more, or I want to be, valued by all my clients. Because, if you are, you don't even have to struggle to get a testimonial or something from them. It's something where you feel valued, they feel value from what you give them. I just love being like, able to just understand what you want and just say, I would like this. And if it's not just saying it in your head a couple times a day, journaling it. I think I saw this video that was talking about that, and I wrote like the same sentence 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, and 9 times before bed, just writing it out. And it kind of really did develop into where I'm at now, which I think the 2 sentences I said were, I want to work with clients that value and so I value and love working with me. I want to something along those lines. But it was like 2 sentences, but it literally turned into where I'm at today, which is basically just working with people that I love and value. Maybe they're not all musicians or whatnot, but they are aligned in a lot of ways with my values, and that's enough for me. And I definitely am rewarded in a sense of just feeling appreciated. There's, I think we've all had certain clients that are difficult to work with, or a little particular on certain things, but language is super important. So just if they are able to communicate their concerns, or as vice versa, if I'm able to understand their problems, how can I solve those problems or issues that they're having? How can I accelerate maybe their growth on Instagram or other ways? I think that's super important too. It is up to you to ask the right questions when you're working with somebody new. It is up to you to figure out what you really want, because the universe isn't going to help you out unless you know what you want.
Yeah, 100%. And I really do think on that note as well, you touched upon a good point there, which was being specific about what you want. And I think a lot of the time when we're sort of demotivated and perhaps lacking energy sometimes, or lacking sort of almost discipline, and you're not quite following through on what you said you were going to do, I think it's because of a lack of direction. I think a lot of the time, like you said, people don't know what they want or what you want, right? So naturally you're like, okay, what's happening for you? Oh, nothing's really happening. Okay, what are you aiming for? Well, if you're not aiming for anything, then I think you're going to go in all these random directions. Yeah. And it's I do wonder sometimes, and speaking with my clients as well, I say, okay, is this what you want? or is this a product of your societal conditioning or childhood conditioning? Are you trying to live up to an identity that was given to you, or is an accumulation of these experiences, or is it what your soul truly wants? And again, coming back to what you were saying before about just trying as many different things as possible, I do also wonder though, I am quite fascinated by this flowy nature of life as well, right? So I think the analogy was sort of the river going down. So yeah, sort of you need the flowiness of the river to take you down different directions, but you also need the structure behind it as well, so that it doesn't just flood everywhere. So have you incorporated some of that maybe flowy nature? I'm trying to find the right words to describe it, but yeah, sort of not being almost a slave to the routine or to your goals, and being able to perhaps let go of a certain direction you were going in and going into a new one.
I just trust. I really do. I trust my intuition at this point. I trust, maybe some people call it fate or destiny, but, I view challenges or, harder times as, a learning experience. And I trust that it's either a lesson that I need to learn if it's a difficult time in my life, or, at this point in my life, I do pretty much know, I think what my right recipe for success is, whether it's this routine. Sometimes I'm not perfectly on it, or sometimes I miss the gym a bunch of times, or, but if I know that I have to get this amount of work done, or these things are on my schedules, if I try to have this, many extra meetings per week, and if I try to do these social activities and these physical activities, everything's just going to work out. I'm not too hung up about being perfect every day, but I think I've just gotten to a place where I just trust, and my environment has really served me in that sense too. I used to be a very angry person, which I'm sure for you, knowing me very recently and briefly, it's hard for you to imagine. But I used to bicycle all around New York City, and I be flipping off cabs and yelling and just being pissed off at the world, and but I wasn't happy because there's always a lot of other things that weren't making me happy. I was in a city that was dirty and expensive and just draining in me in a lot of ways, and I don't know how it really came to be, but I kind of always knew I had a little bit of an anger issue. But I think it's so interesting that I don't even touch on anger. If I get an extreme emotion that's not a good emotion, it's maybe sadness, but I don't really touch on it. I'm not an angry person anymore, which I think I was an angry person for so long, which is crazy because I don't have that. I try to have just understanding. Now, if I do go back to New York City and somebody cuts me off, or is speeding or doing something a little reckless, I'm just in my head of just maybe they're in the rush to the hospital where their aunt is sick, or maybe they're this. I just try to have understanding, and I think that's super important, even for people you hate. I don't. People can be so passionate about this person, this, or this. This is probably very controversial, and maybe I shouldn't even talk about this, but I think my mom taught me that empathy, and this is sympathy and stuff too. And I think something that's super popular to say is if I had a time machine, I would go back and kill Hitler. And it's okay, but it's it's so horrible to say, but I try to have understanding and sympathy for Hitler. I do. It's almost like a Buddhist practice of just understanding and stuff. Let's just take, for example, after World War One, there was a lot of things that were put on Germany to quell them and hold them down economically. They were involved in both World War One and World War Two. I'm sure Hitler saw a lot of his friends' fathers be in an economic depression and not get work, and there was a lot of things that made Germany like a depressive state at that time. And so obviously, you know, I'm not excusing anything he did. I'm just trying to have empathy and understanding. Like, you know, what's very popular now since like Breaking Bad and The Sopranos is like we follow like the antagonist, the bad guy. But we love those stories because we understand the background and the build up to how that person got to where they were. So everyone says like, well, you know, Hitler was an artist at one point, or he was a painter. And then, you know, maybe, you know, obviously not excusing what he did. I'm just saying to get to a point of building up national pride again was something maybe that was more passionate to him than about following his art or his dreams in the art world where, you know, if it wasn't him, it might have been somebody else who, you know, Germany became a world power. There was a huge movement that people wanted to just join the Nazi party and be a part of something that they thought was like good and special at the time. And we can look at, you know, even what's happening in America, like with Trump, there's people that feel like they're being lied to by the government and they can't trust this, or they don't like this. They want less, you know, government spending. And so maybe, you know, obviously not everything Trump does is good, but you're going to have some people who are passionate about some of the message. And we were talking about personal branding earlier too, where like Trump is, his personal brand is bigger than the Republican Party, but he's pushing things in a way that get people excited more than they were about Kamala. Like nobody was as passionate as if they were a Kamala supporter as they were passionate about Trump. And what happened? It was a huge landslide victory. This was like the first like Republican who won also like the popular vote by like this many points or whatever. So people were passionate way more, and it was the same for Joe Biden. People were just like they wanted to vote for him because he was just not Trump or something. But were you actually passionate about Biden? No, the passion came from some of the bluntness in the messaging. And sure, Trump is a liar and there's a lot of things he does that isn't good, but there was a movement in a way similar to the Nazi party with Hitler where he actually instilled passion. So yeah, I've just gotten to a place of like, why try to hate anybody? Why try to get mad about anything? That is such wasted energy. You're just like tying knots in your soul. Like we have knots in our muscles and we got to work them out and get massages and now and then, but like you're being consumed and being told to hate this person or do this or they said this, and there's like this clickbaity type of articles that are pushed out to just get you reactionary. And then you're in the comment section, you're writing all this, and then it's like, wow, maybe I could have journaled for an hour and a half instead of been consumed by something that the media or something else is trying to like steal my energy and my time away from me. Like I could have like hung out with my friends and recharged some social batteries, or caught up with some work, or cleaned my room, or just taken a walk on the beach. Would that have been a better time spent of my day? So yeah, I just try to encourage everybody, like anybody who you hate, can you try to have sympathy for? Anybody who you are told to not like, can you have understanding for? And it was definitely a slow build over time, but like I literally like I don't get angry anymore. I don't get like pissed off. I try to just be like, maybe they were going through a challenging time. Maybe they're just like being a mirror of like, you know, a tough relationship that they're being in, and they were yelled at by their girlfriend last night, and now they're yelling at me because they're dishing it out. So I just try to encourage everybody to like just try to have understanding and empathy. It's such a beautiful thing to like get out of your head of just going reactionary first, anger first. Can we all just have a little more understanding for other people? Because at the end of the day, people who voted for Kamala or people who voted for Trump, at the end of the day, they just want to feed their kids and pay their mortgage and make sure they have enough money for gas and eggs and groceries. And there's a lot more in common to us than we think, or what social media or the media is telling us.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that for several reasons, and there's so many different directions we can go in from there.
Yeah,
I totally agree. I think a lot of the time, whenever there's polarization, we've got to take a step back and think, actually, hang on a sec. why are we putting our energy here? And like you were saying, we've got very common goals with people, and the more we divide, and this is seems so obvious, right? But the more division there is, the less people will come together and work towards a common goal, right? And I was even talking about this last night with some friends as well, even with football teams as well. I used to be a big sort of Spurs fan when I was younger in football, and I was sort of very involved in it, and I would like wear it on my chest, and I'd get really fed up at school and put my energy is like, oh, defending my team. Realistically, the team don't really care about you, and this is the big thing. I think it's like if you're putting your energy into your sports team, then fantastic, you do you. For me personally, I'm thinking you're putting so much energy into that when you could be putting that energy into yourself and building your own dream life. And that's why I sort of see beyond the illusion now. That's why, okay, I'll like maybe tune into the scores a couple times, but I'm not invested into it because, like you were saying, I'd rather invest it into things I'm passionate about, right? And the more energy you give to external things, the less energy you have for yourself. And I think it's very easy. All these people, like you said, they're just sort of puppets, really. And it's just something you can direct your energy towards. And yeah, the Hitler example as well. And I've had a surfer on the show, he was Jewish, and he said the exact same point.
Really?
Exact same
point. Okay, cool. I don't feel bad about saying that. I was like,
yeah,
shit, I shouldn't be talking about this.
No, it's good to mention. He said, look, because he thought that he was doing good. He genuinely thought that. And this is what I mean. The universe it wasn't just created, okay, this is good, this is bad. We've put our own moral principles on this earth, right? So, yeah, was it fucking awful what he did? Absolutely. But in his mind, he thought he was doing good. And I can say this as well. My grandma's family all died in the Holocaust, right? And yeah, it's very easy to feel anger. It's very easy. But what's that doing for your soul, like you mentioned? Okay, what can we learn about it? And actually, when you take the emotions out, it's like, okay, like you were saying, why did he build up such a following? And actually, if you look at some of his speeches, you can actually learn quite a lot from his mannerisms and the way he was speaking. And again, you said it with Trump as well. Okay, learn. Why are people, rather than thinking, because I see this all the time in the UK, oh, if you voted for this party, you're just a racist.
Yeah, and I hated that. It was such a blanket thing to say. It's like you're never going to get to a deeper conversation. You're never going to find common ground if you just say that this person's now a homophobe or this person's now misogynistic. There's no deeper understanding that you can actually have, and I hate that. And talking about sports too, I used to be huge, I still love it, but like I used to be a huge American football fan. Like I loved the New York Jets, and thanks to my dad, that's a lot of years of suffering because they suck. And how much time and energy do I put into that? I'm now pissed off because they lost on Sunday for till Wednesday, like 3 days of the week. I'm suffering because something like a team that doesn't care about me, is affecting my mood. Like that is so crazy. And it should have happened a lot sooner, but I'm like really like trying to step away from like having that take over my life. I do like to say though, it's like, to me, it's like sports, I feel like are like the reality TV shows for like, for women have reality TV shows like men have sports. Cause it is, to me, it's a great storyline. I'm a creative, film school, like photography nerd. And I had to try to explain this to like some of my like film friends were like, I'm not a jock. I'm not like a huge like sports crazy nut, but I do love American football. And my friend was trying to be like, why do you like it so much? I'm just like, well, think about it. Like to me, it's like every Sunday. So it's like an episode of a TV show. It's only like 17 weeks with the playoffs. It's like 24 episodes. So you're watching a TV show pretty much. It's like, it's not as many games as basketball or baseball or hockey. So these kids come out of college and they get millions of dollars. So it's not just like the game on Sundays. It's the storylines of like, wow, this guy had a DUI and now he's suspended for this many games. Now this guy like fucked up his money, and now it's like that part of it to me was like entertaining enough. And it's like there's a room full of writers writing like TV shows and they're like spitting ideas down, but like this is real life. And I love documentaries, and I've always said this, that like, fact is stranger than fiction. So you can't make this shit up. Like there's a guy in the NFL who was an up and coming wide receiver, and he you give, a young 20-something-year-old millions of dollars. He was partying in Vegas, and he was speeding, drunk driving, and he hit this woman, and her car flipped and set on fire, and her dog and her died, and he's now in jail. And that's like, you can't make that stuff up. It sucks. It's crazy. But that stuff I think is so interesting to me because, sports are the reality TV shows for men.
Yeah, sort of everything is a sort of story manifesting into reality. I've realised it as well because I'm big on pro wrestling, right? I was a pro wrestler myself for a bit, and I hope to go back to it. Yeah, so much fun, and that was great. But I get super invested in the stories, right?
Yes,
and there is an art to storytelling, so I do see that for sure, and I think it can actually teach you a lot about life, like the little villain arcs as well. And some people, they say turning heel, right? So that's a good guy who suddenly become a bad guy. And I think a lot of the time, the stories that are told there, you can observe in real life as well. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that stuff as well. And now they're actually blurring the lines between, because now they've sort of, it used to be like, right, let's protect the business, and people can't, we've got to make it all seem real. And whereas now they're embracing the fact that it's a TV show. They've made a great deal with Netflix, huge, like $5 billion deal there. And now they're making it so that they're really blurring the lines. And sometimes you can't actually tell if the storylines are real or not, because sometimes they'll get two guys who actually have got a history of personal hatred, and they'll put them in a storyline because it's money. So now you're getting people who genuinely don't like each other in real life, but they're professionals, so they'll work a story together, and then you're making people guess. And I think that is where we're heading now, is where, okay, what's real, what's not. And I think that's what keeps people going, and it kind of actually ties into what we were discussing before the pod as well, in terms of authenticity and life vision. And I think if you just be you, just authentically you, I think that's how you're going to build a brand over time, and you're going to attract the right people into your life, and the opportunities will come. Coming back to what we were saying, when you get into whole identity politics and you sort of identify with a party or identify with a certain belief system, I think you box yourself in, and at that moment you're not really open to change, right?
Or new ideas, or I think my ex said it well too. She was just like, I will change my opinion if I have new information like that. And that's a beautiful, mature way to be at, where I feel like I can't talk to some people because there's certain things like I did align with certain people, or political figures, and then that just becomes something where now I'm this label, instead of like, well, we can dive deeper, like can I explain why I feel this way? And I think COVID was like a big opening up experience for me. Like I used to think that like everybody who's not getting vaxxed, this is why it's spreading, and like there was so many people, especially in New York, which was very blue, where people are just trying to be like, we have to trust the scientists. See, like the polio vaccine works, so this vaccine is going to work. And it's like, this is very new testing. Okay, I'm not going to trust that. But I bought into all of that for a while, and then I finally had just like the courage or the understanding to just, well, let me talk to some of my friends who don't want to get vaccinated, and then talk to a friend who has a heart condition, or talk to somebody who has like a roommate who has got like a autoimmune disorder, and then you kind of just break all those other beliefs you had. And then I've come to Bali, and I feel like I've met zero people who are pro-vax, and it's a beautiful thing. It's like it's so many people who just like broke out of that thing, and then you kind of find out maybe, wow, Fauci was pardoned by Biden. He was actually involved in the Wuhan labs and all this, and it's like crazy that like I can't really talk about that with some people that I know back in New York, but I feel like I'm definitely surrounded by people who have, I forget if it's the blue or the red pill, but like the Matrix like meme or whatever, but I feel like I'm around like the right people who have the right mindset of understanding, like, and that's a beautiful thing about Bali. It's like you don't really have to explain yourself too much here, because people all get it. People all get that like you're trying to pace your regime, you're trying to be an entrepreneur, you're trying to chase your passions, you are fed up with your home country, and you just want to do something a little differently. You want to prioritize your health, you want to prioritize your diet and nature and other things. So being surrounded by these types of people really can just like accelerate a lot of things. And in general, I think Bali is an accelerator. It speeds things up in a lot of certain ways that maybe where you came from, or the West or other countries, it's not going to happen that way. So yeah, I love that, where there's this thought process there's an understanding. You don't have to explain yourself too much.
Yeah, I love that. And again, you'll meet these people who have their certain belief systems, and I think there's just a strength in, I don't need to really, I know what their belief system's like. And when someone has got such a strong belief system, it's like, okay, you know what, I'm not just going to conserve my energy a bit here because they just won't understand it. Like you were saying with the vax example, right? It's very easy to say, because I remember I was having this conversation once, and they said, it's easy for you to say that because, you haven't had experience with diseases or with really serious diseases caused by, polio or whatever. I said, yeah, but, have you been exposed to side effects from the vaccine? Yeah, and you can just go on and on and on. And at this point, it's just, like you were saying, surround yourself to an extent, right? Because I think getting that balance of, okay, building meaningful connections, people who understand you and get you, and you can talk about these things and just be yourself. But then at the same time, I think it's also important to be open to different points of view as well. And it's finding that balance, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, I just wanted to circle back because you mentioned you're less angry now. And a lot of that is
probably not at all. I'm
right.
Very chill.
Well, that's awesome. I want to dig deep into where that has evolved from, because anger, from my understanding, it's just a surface level thing. And a lot of the time anger is suppressed sadness. So you've been wanting to cry for a while and you haven't been able to let it out. So do you think there was an element of that within you, and have you learned to express your emotions better, and how did that come about?
Yeah, I guess I still get angry, and my current girlfriend, who's amazing, talks about it is important to feel that and honor that, and like there's a way to release, and like punching a pillow is great or whatever, if you need to release that, instead of dishing that onto the next person you see in traffic, or people complain about the traffic here. It's nothing compared to New York City, so I don't complain at all. But yeah, I mean, there was a time where I was just like, I found this new technique. Instead of punching a pillow, I beat like my mattress like a freaking drum, like with both of my arms, and like it feels a little bit better because like the mattress is a little more firm and you get a little bit more of a give back. So I do feel anger now and then, but I think where it came from was not just the environment of New York City. I definitely was in like a few toxic relationships, and I think that really fed into it as well, where I maybe didn't set clear boundaries, or I felt like I was taken advantage of, or I wasn't following my dream or passion as much, and then like being in something, my friend said this really well too. It's like, if you're in a relationship, like a healthy one at least, 1 + 1 should equal more than 2. Like you should both be giving each other certain things that amplify both of your lives in a way. So it's I think if your partner, your girlfriend or boyfriend should be your best friend as well. They should be somebody you can talk to and tell them anything, and build that trust and have vulnerability. And if you're not with somebody who's I don't want to use the word serving, but that's the word for now that I can think of about that. If you're not with somebody who's like serving you in your ways of following your dreams, or supporting you when you knew you had a tough day, or just comforting you, or being just an ear to listen to how everything's going, then like you're really like diminishing yourself. And it goes back to that recipe. It's like you need to have somebody who understands you completely and understands when you do this, maybe you don't mean that, but this is what happened during your day. And so to like find somebody who has that understanding, and you can talk about anything. And this is another thing I love about my current girlfriend, is just we don't really let things build up. I think that's certain problems with old relationships where like I had where like, you know, we didn't talk about how that annoyed me, or like she didn't tell me like this was bugging her, and then like 4 weeks go by and then now she has a laundry list of things that like she wants to tell me. I'm like, why didn't you tell me like within 2 or 3 days of that thing that bothered you? And like now it's like you know, something comes up and it's just like, or there's a misinterpretation of text and like my girlfriend's calling me and we just talk it out. And it's such a beautiful thing to get to that place where there's like, I don't want to be with somebody who like lets things slide because they knew I didn't really mean it, but then they felt this way about it. And now they're being passive aggressive, or now they're being resentful. It's like so horrible.
Yeah, but it's again, you know, it comes back to us. You know, we've got to learn from these experiences and then take responsibility, right? So I can really relate to some of your experiences there. Again, people pleaser. I always had in my mind, oh, I've got to be a nice guy. I've got to, yeah, I can't. Okay, that's annoyed me, but no, I've got to be cool. You know, I've got to. That was my belief system. It's like, no, I can't voice that. So I've seen both sides of it, and yeah, it's. I think when you find the right, because I've got an incredible partner now, we're both committed to improving ourselves and creating that space for each other to be seen and heard, right? And I think that definitely takes a while. I think for me personally, it's very easy to say, okay, yeah, you know, you can be however you want around me, but I think you've also got to build up some emotional maturity, because your ego can get in the way sometimes and you can take things personally, especially if that was a pattern in your childhood as well, believing that everything was your fault and you had to fix everything. Yeah, it all stems to that. Yeah, it's my heart sometimes, you know. I remember building out the podcast page, for example. I remember just, you know, I'd spend a lot of time on a reel and then I'd like post it and then I'd get maybe 2 likes, one from my grandma, one from my girlfriend, you know, and she's just like always there. Like, I always count on that 1 like, and it's just small things like that. I've realised now that a great girlfriend, or with a great girlfriend, it feels like home, right? It's just very calm. And yet, in my mind, I thought, oh, you needed butterflies, you needed this up and down excitement. And from my experience, it's actually the opposite. You actually want calmness, and it takes...
I still get butterflies. I'm sorry.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean we're early. It's been like 4 months or so, but like there is definitely that calmness. But I do, and I just like, it could be the simplest things, and you know, she's just getting work done, and I'm just massaging her feet, and then we just like lay down and talk on the couch and maybe watch something. But like that, the simplest things I enjoy so much with her.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful thing. So it does feel like home, it does feel calm, but there's also just like, it doesn't matter what we do, I'm just happy to be with you, and that is super exciting. And you know what you were saying before, I think you were almost getting to the point, it's just like, just, you know, if you were a people pleaser, you have some this from your childhood or whatever, I think the most important one thing is that like, you have to understand relationships are always work. It doesn't just get better once you get married, and having clear boundaries is super important. Like, this is what I need. And if you don't voice it, like, people aren't mind readers, you know, you have to voice these things.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And yeah, I think we could continue talking for hours. I think we're quite aligned in some ways, learned quite a lot. And yeah, it was interesting because you mentioned the butterflies there. It's funny because I know for us, we didn't have that at first, and then it's only now, after a longer period, where we started to get those. It was kind of like, people would say, oh, you're in the honeymoon phase. It's like, it's kind of been a reverse honeymoon in a way. Like, I didn't get the butterflies at first, and then it's kind of been cultivated as the relationship has gone on, which is interesting.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, mate, so much to continue talking about. We've covered, like I said, a lot of ground, which has been awesome. We've got a closing tradition on the podcast. We've got 3 questions. The first 2 we ask every conversation, and then the third one is asked by a member of the Growth Voyage community.
Okay, let's do it.
First one is usually the most difficult question of the day, and it's a song recommendation.
A song recommendation. I love music so much. I'm even just getting a little bit of the chills talking about it right now. get the chills consistently from music, and I don't know anybody else who does this. People's like, oh, I've got the chills from a certain song. Like, well, like you were like at a music festival and you were probably on something and like you were talking about this. Like, I can listen to the same song over and over again and I will get goosebumps on my arms. And it can be a rap song, it could be electronic song, it could be like a singer songwriter type of like kind of artsy indie song. So it's so difficult to say. Like, I'm a visual artist. I love photo and video, but I would choose to go blind before going deaf because I love music and sound so much. So song wise, I've been really like going back into like understanding like how I got into like electronic music, and I'm gonna call it that. I'm not gonna call it EDM because like electronic music I feel like is a bigger umbrella term. I think I might get this wrong, but like I was going back through certain artists that I love, like Aphex Twin. I love so much because he's so expansive. He's got like the chill piano song with Avril 14th, and then he's got some crazy like anxiety like inducing songs that are like crazy technical, but he's got some like really chill melodies as well. So I've been getting back into him, but I guess recently this song I really like is by FourTet. I think it's 2017, and it's spelled out. So if you search for it, don't put in 2017. Like, write out 2017. So 2017, I think it's called. Spelled out by FourTet. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, I'll certainly be giving that a listen. I'm a big sort of electronic music guy, but then also I think there's a beauty to just, like you were saying, just enjoying different parts of every genre. I think for a long time I was stuck in my own box, like electronic music, and that's it. Whereas
we have different moods of the day, and music serves us can serve us in so many different purposes. Like, I've been even just getting into, I don't know if you know, like binaural beats and stuff. It turns at certain like hertz or frequencies and stuff, and it's good for certain things. So like if you have trouble falling asleep, you could find like a YouTube video of a binaural beat that's good for sleep or good for healing. Let's say you injure your knee. You could find like a 2-hour version and just listen to that as you fall asleep or as you're still sleeping. So yeah, I would check out binaural beats as well.
You said it heals, did you say?
Yeah.
Really? I've never really heard much about that.
I'll show you later when we're done on my phone.
That'd be cool. Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah, that'd be really awesome.
Because there's all these things that like claim they're like good, like sleep casts, or like, people listening to rain sounds or this. It's just like, can I listen to something that's going to do a little more than just that? Someone just like put their microphone out of their like porch while it was raining, and then they're getting like millions of views on YouTube because they had like a good graphic thumbnail. But like no, I want to go a little deeper. Like, music is healing for sure. I mean, I'm sure you know about like sound baths and sound healing and all that stuff, and you can get into like a meditative or almost like psychedelic state from just breathing exercises and music. And I remember learning about that in college, and I thought that was so cool that you can like achieve like a level of where you would be at on like 4 grams of mushrooms without taking mushrooms.
Yeah, that's why I find the breathwork stuff really cool as well. And I haven't even scratched the surface with all this stuff. It makes you wonder why we get opened up to these ideas here in Bali, and then back in the Western world it's the same old like pharmaceutical stuff, and they never really tend to go that much deeper, which I've had my own different opinions about that. But we'll move on to number 2, which was a book recommendation.
I love Be Here Now by Ram Dass. That's it's beautiful because there's like 3 parts to it. There's like the beginning where he talks about like being a professor and studying psychedelics and being at crazy sex parties or drug parties, and then he tried to find his guru in India, and then there's like a huge section of it where it's basically pretty much just like almost like poetry and just pictures and mandalas and stuff, and you have to turn the book sideways to read it. And so he's really become like a very influential teacher of meditation, and I just love it because I've definitely experimented with my fair share of drugs. So to understand the evolution of somebody who can come from like, a respected career background as a professor, and then just being curious about drugs and realizing like, can I get to this state without drugs? Can I figure out how meditation and other things can serve me? And it's just a beautiful book. So Be Here Now. Have you read it?
No, but I'm very keen to read it based off of your.
It's cool. It's like a perfect square. It's got a blue cover. It's a perfect square, and it's got like this chair on it. But yeah, it's really interesting.
I'll definitely check it out. I found this sometimes because I've recently sort of been experiencing this real sense of joy, and I've noticed now it's like when I look at people, there's a certain glow about them now. It's like I always liken it to when I'm on mushrooms in a way, but when I'm sober, and it's really cool. It's like everyone's just suddenly high definition, but I'm sober. It's pretty awesome. So I'll definitely be giving that a read.
Awesome,
for sure. Third one, is a question from one of our Growth Voyage listeners, and it's from Chandler Joyner. He says, if you stopped and took a moment to visualize what the ideal version of you looked like, acted like, and could do, what would they be?
I'm pretty close to what I am right now, I have to say. I'm super happy. I was a different person like 2 years ago, and was eating healthy-ish, but mostly an American diet, which isn't healthy, and I was working a part-time job that was not serving me and stressing me out, and I've come to a place where I'm very happy and I love, and with a partner that I love. I finally started going to the gym consistently like a couple months ago. I'm like super happy with my body, and it's good. Like I was talking to somebody else about this too, and they were just having a little like difficulty dating or talking to women and stuff. And it's so funny because like to me, I'm like no dating or whatever expert, but I don't know, maybe some people think I am. And he was asking me some advice, and I was just like, you could be doing this, but like you already like dress nice and you have like a good aesthetic, but like what can you be doing where it would make you the most confident? And like I didn't want to like be rude about it, but I'm just like, you gotta go to the gym. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's one thing that like, do you want to like looking at yourself in the mirror? Like that's super important. Like obviously people it's no quick easy fix too. It's going to take some time, but it's going to build like some discipline and muscle and definition, and maybe you have to lose like a little bit of weight or do this, but like if you find out that recipe of your life that really works for you, being physically active and really needs to be in there. I mean, you don't have to be doing like Muay Thai like 8 times a week, but like there's a consistency of like, I don't do any of these run clubs. I think running's horrible for your knees, and I know too many people in their 50s and 60s who have knee replacement surgery, so please be careful, runners. Like it's not good for you. Trust me, we're not evolved to run on concrete. Even if you have those fat ass Nikes or Hoya shoes, it's horrible for you. So maybe it's not that much better, but like my cardio is paddle, and like I don't go on a treadmill. I don't do this. If anything, I would prefer to be a bicyclist because your legs are always moving. They're not hitting a hard concrete. But like if you can get some cardio and be active, or take beach walks because that's sand and it's soft for your knees and your joints. If you can go to the gym, do like actual workouts where it works more than just one muscle. Is you're not just at a machine doing one thing. Like kettlebells are super important and amazing for that, and there's such a variety of workouts. So like if you don't want to go to the gym or you can't afford it or something, like if you can get some kettlebells or some weights, there's so many things you can do with that. So just I feel like I'm really living the ideal version of myself. There's not too much that I would change. I mean, there's a few things that I look forward to project-wise in the future, and things that will evolve with certain, like a company I'm working with, and if it really takes off, like I'm more than happy to see that. But I trust in the universe, and I'm living in a way where I never really like prioritized or lived before. So I'm pretty much, I feel like I'm pretty much there. But the journey's never done, of course. It's a growth voyage, and it's something we're gonna always have to work on and reflect on and be honest with ourselves, and can keep being vulnerable. But if you can find like the right recipe or close to the right recipe, you can always do those small tweaks on the way.
Yeah, I love that, and we touched upon sort of building that recipe earlier on in the pod as well, which is awesome. And I love just the way you described it as well. I think it all comes down to love, right? And there's love for yourself, and then that means that you're able to give love to your partner as well. I think it all comes down to that. And I really think, yeah, okay, what's good for your soul? And we talk about environment and all this other stuff and all these different tools, but ultimately, if your body's not feeling great, then your soul's not going to feel great, right? So I love that you've actually started with the physical there, right? Get into shape, actually start looking at your body. Okay, how does it feel after certain things, after drinking, eating certain things? And yeah, I think once we start really treating our body with respect, then we start to respect ourselves, and then we'll have the clarity and strength to, right, okay, build that ideal life for ourselves. And I love that you're pretty close to that now. So yeah, super happy for you, brother. Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you or interested in the work?
My Instagram is Mr. spelled out MISTR, Wil with one L, so no dashes, no periods, just Mr. Wil, Mr. spelled out, Wil with one L.
Wicked. Yeah, we'll put it in the description. But yeah, thank you so much, brother. It's been awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.